There aren't too many given nicknames in professional wrestling that stand up to the sheer prestige of Mr. WrestleMania. Shawn Michaels would earn that title for his ability to share the annual WrestleMania stage with other wrestlers that were presumably his peers, only to outshine them all through magnificent show-stealing performances. Although WWE hasn't exactly been hurting for awe-inspiring performers over the last 8+ years, it's safe to say that Michaels is sorely missed. His timing, instincts, technique, athleticism, and natural charisma put him at least a notch or two above the rest of the fray. An icon whose collective peerage is apparently a short list. Michaels had, for the longest time, resisted offers to return to the ring for one-off matches since his retirement, as he and the rest of us all knew that the Heartbreak Kid had absolutely nothing left to prove. That was, of course, until that sweet, sweet Saudi dollar came a-knocking. He's done all there is to do in the business and was still the very best at what he did, even when he wrestled his original final match at age 44. We here at Cultaholic would like to take a look back at one of the greatest professional wrestlers that has ever lived, with some little factoids and tidbits that you may not have known about the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com, and these are 10 things you didn't know about Shawn Michaels. Join us! Number 10. Figuring it out. Have you ever seen Shawn Michaels' first ever wrestling action figure? Before Michaels would join fellow rocker Marty Jannetty in WWE, the two tore up the tag team scene in Vern Gagne's AWA promotion, and it was there that Michaels was first immortalized in toy form. Made by the now defunct toy maker Remco, Michaels' figure looked less like himself and more like a hybrid Jimmy Fallon zebra type creature. For those of you who complain about the physical accuracy of today's wrestlers as rendered by Mattel, just remember, it could be a hell of a lot worse. But Michaels and Jannetty managed to find a practical use for their toy likenesses, if Sensational Sherry is to be believed. According to the legendary women's wrestler in a shoot interview years after the AWA's closure, the then Midnight Rockers used to take the Remco figures and use them as visual aids to plan out new moves and spots for their matches. Given how great the Rockers' performances tended to be, perhaps the WWE Performance Center should come equipped with some Mattel figurines and a scale model ring. Number 9. One and done. As WWE poached the best talents from each of the dying territories throughout the 80s, it stood to reason that Michaels and Jannetty would one day get the call from New York themselves. That day came in the spring of 1987 when the Midnight Rockers made the trip to New York for a 2-day set of TV tapings. Michaels and Jannetty didn't work the first show, but would wrestle on the second in an untelevised match against undercarders Jose Estrada and Jimmy Jack Funk. In the wee hours between the two taping sessions, the Rockers had run afoul of Funk at a watering hole, in which each man had a separate incident with the apparently inebriated wrestler. Other members of the WWE roster were icy toward both young wrestlers, and suddenly word got around that both Rockers were creating a scene at the bar, smashing plates and glasses. Michaels would later admit that he did smash one glass. The day after the Rockers worked the first of what they assumed would be many matches in WWE, Vince fired them. It would be more than a year before they would return to the company. Number 8. An unlikely trio. Pouring through old house show results will turn up some really unusual matches. Because of no-shows, injuries, or even just the urge to experiment with random combinations, you'll come across many matches in wrestling's long history that will make you go, I wonder what that match was like. For Michaels, he found himself in just such a match in the spring of 1991 in Belfast of all places. In the night's main event, the Rockers would be taking part in a 6-man tag opposite the Orient Express and their manager Mr. Fuji, making a rare return to the ring. The Rockers' partner, none other than Andre the Giant, in what would be Andre's last official WWE match. It was just a random Friday night show in Ireland, but it was historic for the 8th wonder of the world taking part in what would be his final match for McMahon. The fans in Belfast were the only witnesses to the one time that Andre the Giant and Shawn Michaels ever worked as a team. Number 7. It ends with a kick. Seemingly every wrestler in today's business sans Braun Strowman uses the super kick as their finisher. Fewer wrestlers used it in the few years after gentleman Chris Adams invented the move, but Michaels was one of them, doing the flashy crescent kick even in his days as one half of the Rockers. It wouldn't be until 1994, more than 2 years after becoming a singles wrestler in WWE, that Michaels began using the super kick as his absolute finisher, and another year would pass before he would officially start calling it Sweet Chin Music. music. Prior to then, Michaels used moves like the teardrop suplex, pile driver, and even fisherman suplex as finishers between 92 and 94, while the kick remained a mere signature. It was Scott Hall, Michaels' big brother in the Kliq, that suggested using the super kick as a finish, telling Michaels it's the best move you've got. That was enough to sell Shawn on making one of his longtime side dishes into the main course, and the rest is history. Number 6. The original Fight Forever? One of Shawn's most noted achievements is that he became the first person in WWE history to win every championship associated with the Grand Slam, meaning that he held the WWE World, Intercontinental, Tag Team, and European titles at one time or another. Michaels realized this unique feat at the one-night-only pay-per-view in September 1997, when he defeated Davey Boy Smith for the gold in a rather controversial match. Incredibly, 3 of the 4 belts in the Grand Slam won by Michaels would see him defeating the British Bulldog for them. The IC Gold was first won by Michaels in October 92 over Smith on a Saturday night's main event, while 2 of Michaels' tag team title reigns would begin with Bulldog on the defending side. At both the third In Your House, though, Bulldog was merely a fill-in champion there, and an episode of Raw in May 1997. Michaels had also faced Bulldog in WWE Championship matches on pay-per-view in 1996, making for a rather curious intertwining. Number 5. A brief comeback. When Shawn Michaels returned to the ring at SummerSlam 2002 for an emotionally charged battle with friend-turned-nemesis Triple H, it was questioned as to whether or not Michaels could still go in the ring, as he hadn't wrestled in more than 4 years. Far be it from us at Cultaholic to rain on parades, but we're about to shatter part of the mythology of one of the greatest matches of this millennium. It won't hurt that bad, we promise. Not long after his first exit from the ring, Michaels opened a wrestling school in San Antonio called the Texas Wrestling Academy, which produced recognizable faces such as Paul London, Brian Kendrick, Lance Cade, Daniel Bryan, among many others. There was also a small-time wrestling promotion that ran in conjunction with the school, and Michaels worked one match in April 2000. His opponent was former tag team partner and rival Paul Diamond, who was going by the name Venom. The entire match is online, and it's an interesting look at how gifted a performer Michaels could still be, even with a long layoff. But then if you saw SummerSlam 2002, you already know how true a statement that is. Number 4. The absence of gold. Michaels' championship resume precedes him, as 4 runs as world champion as well as assorted secondary and tag team belts comprise a large part of HBK's wrestling legacy. When Michaels made his return in 2002, he would add yet another golden token to his already impressive collection, winning the World Heavyweight title at Survivor Series 2002 inside the Elimination Chamber. After Michaels lost the belt back to Triple H the following month, gold suddenly became scarce. For the next 7 years, until he and Triple H defeated Jericho to win the unified belts in December 2009, Michaels would only hold one other belt, Raw's Tag Team Championships with John Cena, for about 9 weeks in 2007. He would never hold another singles belt upon his world title loss in 2002, despite hanging out in the main event tier up until his 2010 retirement. Instead, Michaels served as a revered roadblock for opposing champions to conquer, and someone who could get the most out of the next generation of main eventer. Number 3. Knowing when to walk away. More than 8 years have passed since Shawn Michaels' final match, and unlike many of his contemporaries that swore they were done, Michaels had remained retired. WWE had tempted him a few times, and fans had loudly clamoured for one more match, as they're apt to do, but for the longest time there was no budging the now 53-year-old Michaels, who had stuck to his guns until that sweet, sweet Saudi dollar. But in relation to his first almost perfect retirement, Michaels would reveal his motivation for it in an interview with Bill Simmons, then of ESPN.com. Michaels claimed that the decision to retire actually came more than 1 year before the final match with Undertaker and about 1 month before WrestleMania 25. The Heartbreak Kid was having a conversation backstage with a WWE staffer who had asked about Shawn's son Cameron. When Michaels remarked that Cameron had just turned 9 years old, the employee noted he was halfway gone, meaning halfway to adulthood, after which he might conceivably be out on his own. That reality struck a chord with Michaels as he decided to make the following year his final one as an active wrestler, so that he could still appreciate time with his son during his youth until that sweet, sweet Saudi dollar. Number 2. Royal longevity. Shawn Michaels' history in Royal Rumble matches is well known. He's one of only 7 individuals that's won the titular match on more than one occasion, and one of those times he went wire to wire in order to achieve the victory. Michaels also claims another very unique Royal Rumble achievement, one that never gets mentioned but is still a tribute to his endurance. As of the 2010 Royal Rumble, Michaels became the first of only 2 men to have competed in Royal Rumble matches in 4 different decades. Michaels was only 23 years old when he took part in the 89 Rumble match as one of the Rockers, competed in his share throughout the 90s and the noughties, before finishing in the final 4 of the 2010 match. For the record, the only other person to have matched the 4 decades feat was none other than the 1988 winner, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, whose participation in the 2012 match as a surprise legend puts him in the same small boat as HBK. Number 1. The fans' choice of SHOWSTEALER. Most fans are familiar with what are referred to as APTA mags, the kayfabe-centric wrestling magazines that are the gateway to learning about different promotions and talents. Pro Wrestling Illustrated is among the most prolific and renowned, particularly for some of its annual features, like the popular PWI 500 rankings issue. There are also year-end awards voted on by the readers, which include one for Match of the Year. In the 46 years that the award has been on the ballot, a Shawn Michaels match has won that honor on 11 occasions, a 24% success rate. Incredibly, those 11 awards are split into 2 different streaks. From 93 to 96, Michaels won in each of those 4 years, though some picks were a little peculiar. His main 93 Raw match with Jannetty, the ladder match with Razor in 94, his WrestleMania 11 match with Diesel, and the Iron Man match with Bret Hart. He began a second streak in 04 that lasted through his 2010 retirement, taking the honors into his retirement. In every case except for 2007, where his and John Cena's hour-long Raw match won, Michaels' WrestleMania match was voted as the best of the year. Yes, even his one-sided mauling of Vince McMahon in 06 was that year's pick. When you look back on it, it was quite fun. That much is certainly true. And that's our list. I've been Sam from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter here. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.